What up, everybody? It's Beer 30 Funk Fest night, where there's nothing but sour beers, living beers. 30 of them are on tap. I'm pretty stoked on it. And so I'm just doing a little video trying to promote that healthy brewed decision. And y'all are about to get a taste. So this is a book that I've been reading that I'm super stoked on. I'm nowhere near done with, but it's a book that many people should read. And so I'm just going to get started. I didn't prepare too much. If any of my teachers are watching this, you'll be reminded of my old book reports. But I'm just going to get into it. Long before the bearded patriarchal male gods, there was the goddess, feminine spirit of birth and fertility, the Earth Mother. 20,000 years ago, it was a goddess who gave life and abundance. It was the goddess who, out of a mother's love and pity for her fallen children, gave the gift of the brew to the women of mankind. The cup of bliss, the gourd of temporary forgetfulness, was filled with beer. In all ancient societies and the religious mythologies of all ancient cultures, beer was a gift to women from a goddess, never a male god, and women remained bonded in complex religious relationships with feminine deities who blessed the brew vessels. And, anybody out there who's mad about that, girls were the only ones also given breasts, and we seem to all enjoy that, so just chill out. It means the brewing of the beer, not the actual drinking of it. And so before I get into this next one, I just want to remind you all of a quote I marked as number 2. And it's a quote from the Akan, a tribe in Africa. And it says this: Obi Kwan Nasi, Obi Kwan Mu. And it means no man's path crosses another's. So I'm about to make a Trump reference. Didn't want to get anyone heated. Just remember that before I get into this. So Trump, for all of you who don't know, is sober. Actually, he's been sober his whole life pretty much because his older brother died of alcoholism. And so he never drank, I guess. So that's my setup for this next quote, which is: all the great villainies of history, from the murder of Abel onward, have been perpetrated by sober men, and chiefly by teetotalers. But all the charming and beautiful things, from the Song of Songs to Bula Baise, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that, and from the 9 Beethoven symphonies to the Martini cocktail, have been given to humanity by men who, when the hour came, turned from tap water to something with color to it, and more in it than mere oxygen and hydrogen. Cheers. Trying to be one of those dudes. And so my next quote: what becomes clear in any deep exploration of the use of fermented beverages in human history is that the time in which we live is an aberration in that same history. The normal range of human consciousness and the behavior that derives from it has never been so narrowly defined as in our time. This narrowing process, an attempt to provide a safety not inherent in life itself, is becoming ever more extreme. This can be seen in the drive for increasing restrictions over the use of alcohol and tobacco, and in the early movements toward testing babies at birth to determine if they have genetic predispositions toward alcoholism, drug use, depression, anger, or rebellious behavior. Thank God they didn't test me for that. And some political figures and social workers have advocated that those babies with predispositions towards such behaviors should be medicated from birth. Such behaviors are an irremovable aspect of human life and its interaction with fermentation. And our ancestors seem to understand this, to understand that it is impossible to sand all the rough corners off of life. They knew that what is crucial is not that bad things happen to us, but what we do with those things after they occur. And it is this struggle to survive the burdens of our weakness and integrate tragedy into the fabric of our lives that defines our character, that teaches us our lessons, that allows us to develop as human beings. To eliminate the dark will not leave only the light, but will result in a uniform grayness that knows neither triumph nor failure. I do not believe that the drive to eliminate the darkness, the mistaken belief that it can be eliminated, is good for us as a species. Therefore, this book is written from the perspective that fermentation and plant use, as medicine, as psychotropics, as teachers, as companions on our life path, are an inescapable part of our exploration of what it means to be human. That, in fact, our humanness, as we now understand it, could not have occurred without the gift of fermentation or plants. Thus, this book conflicts with a number of popular beliefs about alcohol, plants, and the primary assumptions our culture holds about the nature of material reality. It is therefore not politically correct. The contrast between these stories, it is not only the rainforests that are being chewed up in the industrial machine. but also human cultures 30,000 years old, ways of thinking radically different from Western approaches, plants that may never be seen again, and things that many of us will never know we lost. One of those is that beer Alan Ames traveled so far to find. It may seem a small thing, for beer is rather pedestrian. It summons up images of sweaty guys in t-shirts knocking back some brewskis before the ball game, but there are many things in this world that are much more than they seem. Beer is one of them. The ancient beers created independently around the world between 10,000 and 30,000 years ago were quite different from what we know as beer today. There were hundreds, if not thousands of them, using some 20 different kinds of yeast, perhaps 15 different sugar sources, and more than 200 different plant adjuncts. Many were sacred beers, scores were highly inebriating or psychotropic, and hundreds contained medicinal herbs. It's actually the reason I bought this book, a delicious rosemary beer. They all used to be hops free, by the way. Hops, not a huge fan of, but I'll do what I can. They were made for sacred ceremony, for attaining non-ordinary states of reality, for communicating with the ancestors as potent nutrient foods, and for healing. Though it might seem going rather far afield, in many respects, the point in time when we in the West began to move out of that older perspective begins with Galileo, remembered mostly for his struggles with the Catholic Church, his trial, and his loss in courts of the petrified thinking of the Catholic politicians. His contribution is somewhat more involved. He was the first to put forward the idea that the universe is a great machine put into motion by God, but nevertheless still a machine. It is this concept that leads to the inability of us in the West to understand the indigenous mind. First and foremost, the acceptance of Galileo's premise means that there is no inherent depth in the material universe. No soul, no feeling. The universe operates by set physical rules and actions that can be discovered and known by human beings. Those rules and actions, indeed the universe itself, are all morally free. There are only various forms of matter interacting by specific rules, though not completely understood, can be discovered. This reduction of the universe to material interactions conflicts with essential aspects of ancient and indigenous assumptions. Fuck the reductionist mindset. We need to end that stuff. But anyways, for instance, within all indigenous cultures, plants are considered to possess intelligence, awareness, and a soul. They are expected as being able to speak with human beings and convey information about how they may be used as medicine. This concept strikes at the heart of the universe as a machine perspective, and no one in America can take it seriously without beginning to twitch nervously, as the herbalist Michael Moore observes. Second, the idea of the universe as a great machine gives rise inevitably to Darwin's theory of evolution. That is, it is hypothesized that humans evolved over a very long time in a complex interaction of environmental survival pressures and species of adaptation and selection. Human life is simply one random expression of the workings of the great machine. There's an embedded assumption in evolutionary theory that the human race came from some pre-human source and through natural selection is heading someplace incredible, some peak of evolution that is our ultimate destination. This belief naturally engenders the perspective that the human achievements of the past were all right for our ancestors, but in the here and now are obviously primitive and hopelessly old-fashioned. Two, where we are now is better, though not as good as where we are going. There is thus an inescapable disrespect for the cultures of the past, an inherent, though subtle, denigration of our present state, and a desire to get where we are going so we can finally be of worth, finally be evolved. That affects nearly all Western perspectives. This Western acceptance of the truth of evolutionary theory inevitably leads to its application in the human cultural realm. At its most basic, it means a simple denigration of older or non-industrial cultures, which is why I hate when people talk about third cultures like we aren't one. But anyways, at its worst, it becomes culturally sanctioned ethnocentrism or racism. As a result, any knowledge of the universe gleaned by our forefathers that comes from systems of information gathering other than the universe as a machine model is routinely ascribed to our ancestors' lack of evolution and summarily dismissed and discredited.
Go chill, dude. This is how I always thought.
As Okute and Oglala Sioux noted in the early 1900s, an animal depends a great deal on the natural conditions around it. If the buffalo were here today, I think they would be different from the buffalo of the old days, because all the natural conditions have changed. Similarly, with the Indians, they have less freedom, and they fall an easy prey to disease. Whereas in the old days, they were rugged and healthy, drinking pure water and eating the meat of the buffalo, which had a wide range, not being shut up like the cattle of the present day. The water of the Missouri River is not pure as it used to be, and many of the creeks are no longer good for us to drink. A man ought to desire that which is genuine instead of that which is artificial. Fact.
Alright, 0-1. 0-1. 0-1, don't worry. 0-1.
Next quote, the most primitive peoples, and primitive is in parentheses for quotations for good reason, naturally do this. They live deeply embedded in their environment and all practice ceremonies and rituals that affirm and nourish this interconnectedness, this inner being of the human tribe with the rest of the earth family. Can't wait to be part of that when we join the Raven Health Community Tribe and connect with the earth family. But we'll go on to the next quote, number 9. Through fermenting, they produce the primary source of B-complex vitamins in many indigenous diets. And I wanted to film this on my tablet so I could show a picture of the happy hour sign at my doctor's office, just to show how far we've come, which is a joke because we now, instead of getting our B vitamins from delicious beverages like this, we, once a week we call it happy hour. A lot of people in this town go and they pull down their pants for their doctor, bend over, and get a stick in the butt so that they can get their B vitamins that way. How evolved, huh? Anyways, moving on. Through both drinking the beer and through ritual offerings of the beer to the ancestors who also liked to drink it, communication with the ancestors is achieved and their help is obtained for the tribe. And this is why, you guys have probably all heard.
Do you mind us playing at this table?
I'm going to be done in like 3 minutes. Can you wait?
3 minutes?
Yeah.
I can wait.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, and so this is why, like, you guys, if you ever listen to rap, pour some out for my homies. I'm going to do that right now. You guys can't see. There we go. That's so we can get some help, you know what I mean? And then, alright, 2 more quotes. These people are getting antsy. They want to get back to their ping pong. Alright, so, oh yeah, I wanted to just announce I'm giving away one of my 2 volcanoes, and the reason is this next quote. I'm not an artist. I have a lot of work to do before I can really get into my, I want to say left brain side. I think I'm too much right brain right now trying to get shit figured out. But eventually I'm going to save one volcano for my artistic side, and I'll be sipping on these one day in a tribe trying to tap into that side of me. But right now I'm not an artist, and so anyone out there who is, I'm trying to plan a tattoo. And so I'm going to be doing a post soon about like a rough sketch of what I want, and then I want y'all to do it better. And I'm going to have a contest who gets the most likes. And then the winner is going to get my volcano. So, and the reason being is this quote. For art to exist, for any sort of aesthetic activity to exist, a certain psychological precondition is indispensable. Intoxication. And, oh yeah, that was, I just went out of line on that one. Oh, and then, this is the last one. So, if you guys ever studied history, like prohibition and all the puritanical bullshit surrounding alcohol, it was pretty much all started by women. And the interesting thing is, if you notice from that first quote, women actually were supposed to be the brewers, and it's been men who've stolen that process from them and bastardized it from living alcoholic, healthy, nutritive beverages like this and turned them into bottled, dead spirits, which I call zombie juice. And so maybe that's part of the reason why women throughout history have been so mad about what happens when that stuff is now drank, and how it's just being bastardized in general. So I'm also looking for a woman who's practicing sacred fermentation and wants to join up with the tribe and start doing that. And that'll be it. Feel eyes looking at me, but appreciate y'all for listening. Get your living beers in you occasionally, and stop drinking zombie juice. That's my recommendation. It's a couple beers I'll be working on with some friends. Y'all have a good one.